4th of July, and the watermelon is the last thing left on the table, sweating in a big steel bowl of half-melted ice while everybody waits on it. You bought it that morning off a pile at the store, the biggest one you could lift, because bigger looked like more. Now your brother-in-law hands you the knife and 8 people are watching. You cut it open down the middle, and it's pink, not red, pale pink, with a thick white rind that goes on forever and seeds still half white. Somebody takes a polite bite and says it's fine, which is what people say when it isn't. It's watery, grainy, barely sweet. You paid $9 for a beach ball of pink water, and you cut it in front of the whole family, and everybody's too kind to say so out loud. Here's what I need you to hear. There is not 1 ounce of luck in a watermelon. Not one. There was a time every roadside melon man in the South could walk down a truck bed of 100 melons and lay his hand on the sweetest one in the load without cutting a single one open. He read it right off the skin. There's a handful of things he was looking at, and every one of them is free, and you can learn the whole set standing in the store this week. I'll give you all of it. Start with the belly, because the belly never lies. Then I'll show you the other 6. Turn the melon over and look at the underside, the part that sat on the dirt. Every watermelon has one flat spot down there where it lay on the ground the whole time it grew, one place the sun never reached and the vine pressed it into the warm earth. Growers call it the field spot, or the ground spot, or just the belly. The color of that one spot will tell you more than the other 6 tests put together. You want it creamy. A deep, buttery yellow, the color of the top of a jar of good cream, or a stick of butter left out on the counter. Sometimes it goes past yellow into a soft orange. That color means the melon lay on that vine a long time. Weeks passed when a hurried farmer would have cut it, soaking up sun while the ground underneath slowly turned that spot from green to white to gold. Deep yellow belly, sweet melon, nearly every time. What you don't want is white, or worse, a pale greenish white with no warmth to it at all. A white belly means they cut that melon off the vine early and shipped it green before the ground and the sun finished the job. It'll be pale inside and short on sugar, no matter how pretty the outside looks. And if there's barely any spot at all, just green all the way around, that one got picked so early it never even settled down and rested on the dirt. Leave it be. Old Roscoe, who sold melons off a rusted-out Chevy flatbed at a crossroads outside Cordelli, Georgia, for the better part of 30 years, wouldn't let you buy a white-bellied melon, even if you begged him. He'd turn it over, show you the pale underside, and set it right back down. Said he didn't sell disappointment, and a white belly was disappointment you could see coming. He wore the same sweat-ringed straw hat every summer and kept his change in a King Edward cigar box, and I never once got a bad melon off that truck. Not one. Here's the mistake, and it's the whole ballgame. People turn the melon so the pretty striped top faces up, admire it, and carry it off without ever flipping it over. And no, the good-looking top tells you almost nothing. The top is just the top. It's the same green on a sweet melon and a sorry one. The belly is where the truth is, and it's the one side nobody thinks to check. Turn it over. Always turn it over. Now, once the belly's told you it stayed on the vine, the shine of the skin tells you something the belly can't. Look at the skin on top now, the green part, and pay attention to whether it shines. Not the color, the shine. A ripe watermelon has a dull skin, flat and matte, a little dusty looking, like the bloom on a plum before you rub it off, or an old work boot that hasn't seen polish in a while. That dull finish comes on as the melon finishes ripening. The skin goes from glossy to matte right about when the inside goes from pink to red. Dull skin, done melon. A shiny melon, one where the green almost gleams and you can nearly watch the light bounce off it, is a melon that isn't ready yet, underripe. That glossy skin is young skin. Give that one another week on the vine and it'd have dulled down and sweetened up, but it's not going to do that in the store. So it's going to be exactly this green and this hard when you cut it. Shiny is a warning, not a selling point, and it fools people every single day, because shiny looks fresh and new. On most things at the store, shiny is good. On a watermelon, shiny means weight. That's the mistake right there, plain as day. Folks reach for the glossiest melon in the bin, thinking it looks the freshest, and they're reaching for the greenest, hardest one on the pile. The tired, dusty-looking melon sitting next to it is the sweet one. I've watched 100 people at a store do this. They pass over the good melon because it doesn't sparkle. Roscoe used to run his thumb across the top and say, a ripe one should feel like it had a little powder on it, and a green one felt slick, like it had been waxed. His hands knew it before his eyes did. Yours will too, after a few. Skin like a dusty boot, not a new apple. Now put the melon up to your ear, because this next one you do with sound. Everybody's heard you're supposed to thump a watermelon. Hardly anybody knows what they're listening for, so they knock on it, nod like they heard something, and buy it anyway. Let me tell you exactly what you want. Hold the melon up, or set it on your open palm, and give it a good firm knock with your knuckles, right in the middle, the way you'd knock on a solid door. Then listen for the pitch, low or high. A ripe watermelon answers back low. A deep, hollow, rounded note, like knocking on a big, empty barrel, or thumping your own chest. That low, hollow boom means the inside is ripe and loose and full of water and sugar, the flesh just firm enough and the juice just free enough to ring. Low and hollow, that's your melon. An unripe one answers high and tight, a hard, pingy sound, more like knocking on a green log or a bowling ball. The flesh in there is still dense and packed and hasn't loosened into sweetness yet, and dense stuff makes a high, tight sound. If it pings, it's green, and the far end of it, an overripe melon goes dead. A dull, muffled thud with no ring at all, like thumping a sack of wet sand. That flesh has gone mealy and started to break down inside. No music left in it. Put it back. Here's a trick Roscoe taught me that beats the ear on a noisy day. Press the melon flat against your chest or your belly and thump the far side. And yes, people will look at you hugging a watermelon in the middle of the store, so let them look. On a ripe one, you won't just hear the low note, you'll feel it, a soft buzz coming through the melon into your body, like a cat purring against you. That buzz is the loose, ripe flesh humming. A green melon won't do it. It'll feel dead and stiff against you, all knock and no purr. The mistake most people make is thumping too soft, a little tippy-tap with one finger that tells you nothing, and then trusting it anyway. Knock it like you mean it, and listen for low, not loud. A lot of folks think loud means ripe. It doesn't. Deep means ripe. There's melons that boom low and quiet, and they're perfect. Once you've got the belly, the dull skin, and the low note all agreeing, you're most of the way home. Next, we pick it up. Pick it up. Really pick it up. Get it off the pile and feel it in your arms, and then set it down and heft another one about the same size. You're comparing weight against size, and the heavy one wins. A watermelon is almost all water, better than 9 parts in 10, and it's the water and the sugar dissolved in it that give a melon its weight. A ripe melon is packed full of that juice, dense and solid, and it'll feel heavier than your eyes told you to expect. You lift it and go, that's a lot of melon for its size. That little surprise is the good sign. A melon that feels light for how big it is has either dried out sitting around too long or never filled up proper in the field, and either way there's less juice and thinner sugar, less melon in the melon. Light is empty, heavy is full of Saturday afternoon. The reason you compare two is that you can't feel heavy in a vacuum. Heavy next to what? So you grab two the same size and let your 2 arms be the scale. A melon that makes you grunt when you lift it is doing its job. The one that surprises you is the one you take home. The mistake, and I watched my own father make it my whole childhood, is buying the biggest melon on the pile, because big feels like a bargain. A giant light melon is a giant letdown. All that size is just watered down nothing, thin sugar spread over too much rind. A medium melon that's heavy for its size will outsweeten a big, airy one every time. Don't buy the most melon. Buy the most melon for the size. There's a difference, and it's the whole difference. Now here's where the old-timers really left everybody else behind, because this next one almost nobody looks for. Look close at the skin, over the whole melon, and hunt for two things the casual shopper never even notices: brown, webbing, and sugar spots. The webbing is a rough, corky, tangent brown netting, sometimes in fine lines like a spiderweb laid over the rind, sometimes in raised, scabby patches. Those marks trace back to the flower, back when the melon was just setting. Every time a bee landed and worked that bloom, it left a tiny scar, and as the melon grew, those scars healed over into brown, corky webbing. So webbing is a record of bee traffic. More webbing means more bees worked that flower. And a flower worked hard by bees gets pollinated full and even, and a well-pollinated melon fills with seeds and sugar all the way through. The webbier melon is the sweeter melon. A rind that's perfectly clean and smooth with no brown marks at all got fewer bee visits, and it's a better bet to come up bland or patchy inside. Then there's sugar spots. Sometimes you'll see a place on the rind, often right near the webbing, where it looks like something dark and sticky seeped out and dried. A little amber-brown crusty patch. That's sugar. It's the melon so full of it that a bit wept out through the rind and candied on the skin. You cannot fake that. A melon wearing its own sugar on the outside is loaded on the inside. When Roscoe had it down to 2 good melons and had to choose, he looked for the one with a sugar spot, and that was his tiebreaker every time. Back in his day, he'd have just cut a little triangle plug out of the rind to show you the red before you paid. The old way, before the stores decided that was a mess they didn't want. The skin reads, "Save you the plug." The mistake here is the same instinct that goes wrong on the shine. People want the flawless melon, the smooth, clean green one with no marks, and they pass over the scarred, webbed one thinking it's damaged. It's not damaged. It's decorated. Those brown marks are the melon's report card, and a melon covered in them made straight A's out in the field. Don't buy the clean one. Buy the one that looks like it's been busy. This is one of those quiet truths from the field nobody bothers to teach anymore. The bees graded these melons months ago. You're just reading the grade. Now the vine left one last note for you, right up at the stem. Right up near the stem, where the melon was joined to the vine, look for the little curly tendril, the pigtail. It's a thin, wiry curl of vine that grew out right beside the stem. On a lot of store melons, it's dried up and fallen off, but when it's still there, it's worth a look. If that pigtail is brown and dried and crispy, dead as a piece of straw, the melon is ripe. Here's why. When a watermelon finishes ripening, the vine cuts it off, stops sending sap and sugar out to it, because the job's done. And the little tendril nearest that melon, having lost its water supply, dries up and browns and curls. So a dead brown pigtail is the vine's own way of saying, "I'm finished feeding this one. It's ready to go." The plant is telling you, if you know to look, if that tendril is still green, still soft and alive, that melon got picked while the vine was still feeding it, still pumping it full. Green pigtail means they took it early. The vine wasn't done, and neither was the sugar. The mistake is not knowing to look at all, which is most people, and the near mistake is looking at the fat stem instead of the thin tendril. The stem is the thick nub where they cut it. The tendril is the skinny curly whisker right beside it. It's the whisker that dries when the melon's ripe. Brown, crispy whisker, good. Green, soft whisker, early. If it's already fallen off and gone, no harm done, you've got 5 other reeds to lean on. This one's a bonus when you can get it. Now, let me knock down the biggest piece of watermelon nonsense on the whole internet before it costs you another melon. You've probably seen the videos and the little diagrams. Watermelons come in, boys and girls, they'll tell you. The tall, skinny, oval ones are boy melons, watery and bland, and the round, squat ones are girl melons, sweeter, full of sugar. So pick the round girls and skip the long boys. It's everywhere now, passed around like it came down off a mountain on stone tablets. It's nonsense, every bit of it. A watermelon is a fruit, and the fruit does not have a sex you can read off its shape. There are no boy and girl watermelons in that bin. Long ones and round ones are just different varieties, or the same variety grown a little different, and neither shape is sweeter than the other on account of some made-up gender. Somebody invented that, it sounded folksy and clever, and it spread like a cold in a schoolhouse. throw it clean out of your head. You'll pick better the minute you quit believing it. Now, shape does tell you something, just not that. What you want is a melon that's even and regular for its kind. Whether it's a long one or a round one, a long melon should taper nice and even, end to end. A round one should be round all the way around. What you don't want is lumps, a big flat side, a fat end and a skinny end, a melon that grew crooked, because a lopsided melon usually grew in lopsided conditions, uneven water, or a dry August that caught one side of its growing while the other side did fine, and a melon that grew uneven ripens uneven. One end comes up sweet and the other end watery and pale. So you want the smooth, honest-shaped one, not because it's a girl, but because even on the outside usually means even on the inside. The mistake is chasing that boy-girl story and passing over a perfect long melon because somebody online called it a boy, or grabbing a round one with a big flat lopsided side and figuring round alone made it sweet. Shape matters for what it says about how the melon grew, and not one bit for its imaginary gender. Even and regular, that's the whole of it. And with that, you've got the complete set. Let me lay all 7 out for you at once. Down around Cordell, where Roscoe kept his flatbed, they still throw a watermelon festival every summer, the way whole towns across the South once did, back when a good melon crop paid the fall bills and the railroads ran the harvest north by the boxcar, packed in straw. Those growers bred their own strains and saved their own seed off the sweetest, heaviest fruit of the year before, season after season, the same care they gave to anything they couldn't afford to get wrong. Every reed I just handed you was once plain survival for folks whose name went on the crate and who could not send a white-bellied melon to market and still eat come winter. 7 reeds, and you can run them all in about a minute and a half without cutting a thing. The belly, deep buttery gold and never white. The skin dull and dusty, never shiny. The knock, low and hollow, with that little buzz against your chest. The weight, heavy for its size, the surprising one out of 2. The rind, webbed and sugar-spotted, the busy one over the clean one. The pigtail, brown and crispy if it's still hanging on. And the shape, even and regular, and never you mind what anybody says about boys and girls. Now here's the part that ought to make you a little mad. Nobody has any reason to teach you this. The store buys the green melon and the sweet melon for about the same money and sells them to you for the same $9. And a shopper who can tell them apart is nothing but a problem for the bin. There's no commercial coming to show you the belly of a melon. So this, knowing that every farm family and every roadside melon man used to carry in their hands, just quit getting handed down, and now a whole country stands in the store hoisting the biggest, shiniest melon on the pile and hauling it home to a pale, disappointing Saturday. You're done doing that. The melon already told the truth about itself out in the field. All you had to do was learn its language, and now you have. If somebody you love keeps carrying home, sorry melons, summer after summer, do them a kindness and send them this before the next cookout. And tell me down below, was it the belly you never knew to check? Or that little brown pigtail up by the stem? Somebody's grandmother out there had a trick I've never heard, and I want it. So this week, go stand over a pile of watermelons somewhere, a store, a stand, the back of somebody's truck at a crossroads if you're lucky, and run the 7. Turn them over. Knock on them like you mean it. Heft 2 at once and feel the difference. Bring home the one that passes, cut it that afternoon, and watch the faces around the table when it comes up deep red and drips clear down to the elbow. Then save a handful of those black seeds off your plate and dry them on a paper towel, because next time I'll show you how the old melon men grew 100-pound melons out of seed they saved off the sweetest one they ever cut. That's how you keep the whole thing alive. You save the seed, and you teach the hands. Old Roscoe's been gone a long while now, and that rusted flatbed with him. But every July, when I turn a melon over in the store and catch that deep gold belly looking back at me, I can still see him tip his straw hat back and nod. A good watermelon never could keep a secret. It wears everything it is right there on the outside, for anybody patient enough to turn it over and look.